evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Inside the Pigskin. My name is Scott Morgan, Rough the Motor City Madmouth. We're back in our home studios, at least this week. Who knows, next week I'll be up in Detroit taking care of some unfinished business. But meanwhile, before I get to the crew, I want to thank everybody at the Black Rock Barn Grill in Heartland, Michigan, for hosting us 2 weeks ago. It was quite an experience. And at the top of the list, I want to put my brother Lonnie Morganroth and my nephew Brandon Morganroth, who enabled us to do the show and do it in a way that we really feel like the standards are out there to do it. So Lonnie and Brandon, if you're watching, listening, thank you very much. Black Rock Barn Grill in Heartland will be our new home for any shows up in the Metro Detroit area. So thanks a lot to those folks up there. That said, let me introduce the crew here. Candy Embling will be coming on a segment at some point in the show, but welcome, Candy. Of course, she.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be on, and I'll be on later.
You got it. All right, Travis Sherlock Holmes, welcome to the big show, your show.
Thank you for having me as always.
Well, you're welcome. All right, Coach Bono.
Great to be here. Thanks, Scott.
Oh, yeah, I always love having you on here, Coach. And also, Melfar Jr.
Great to be back. Missed you guys. It's been a few weeks since I've been on. Good to be back.
Well, it's been a couple weeks since we were on, so don't feel too bad. I can't help it. And last but not least, the comic himself, Jeremy Ballrick.
Hey, good. I don't feel like I have to be Bryce Young behind the podium and needing a step stool anymore. They can see my face again. But great to be here. Glad to talk some football. Love to talk the draft and anything else you guys want to cover.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about the draft right now while it's fresh off the top. Troy put on a great show for 775,000 people. That doesn't count the other people around it. I guess the rounding totals, Jeremy, over 3 million, as I heard.
Well, I know that I heard a traffic report because I listened to AM radio during my drive down, and they said already before I even got to the hotel, they had 2 million more cars than usual driving through Detroit on the expressways without as many backups as they predicted. But the police officer I talked to just around Greektown and the surrounding watch cars in that area downtown, there was 300,000 people there. So that didn't include all the little suburbs and the ones further out.
Yeah.
So downtown, you're talking about $1.6 million in the immediate million people in the immediate draft area. And if all they spent was $10 a day on food, that's
right.
$16 million boon to the economy. And we all know that there's hardly anything for $10 as a meal in Detroit.
No question about it. And I know that you were on Chicks and Salsa earlier, and I know that you felt it was a once in a lifetime experience for you to do it. And we're glad you represented us with a lot of dignity and class, and it was good to be behind the scenes of your podcast, watching you talk. While I fed you a little information here and there on history, things you may have wanted to hear versus what you didn't want to hear, which I didn't care anyways. But the fact of the matter is, where I really praise you a lot, Jeremy, was the way you maintained your podcast throughout the entire 3 days and kept your audience engaged. That was a good first act for you, Jeremy. It sure was. So well done, Jeremy. All right. So with that said, for me, it was great. I had an opportunity to interview Mel Owens, formerly of the University of Michigan, and he played for, obviously, the LA Rams. Mel, I'll bet you're probably familiar with Mel Owens, aren't you?
Very much so.
Yeah, he was my main one-on-one interview the whole time. So for those individuals that want to see Mel,
he was my teammate out there.
What's that?
He was my teammate out there.
Oh, was he really? No kidding. Well, maybe I'll have to come up with a show with the two of you guys on. I'm working on some things. And while I have an opportunity to do this, okay, in about 2 weeks or so, the Motor City Madmouth show will have a new home on nofilter.net, and I'm looking forward to bringing that on. So I'm going to do a lot of different things with that show. That show will run around 7:30, 8 o'clock Eastern time. So I'll give you more information. I have a lot of different ideas of what I want to do with it. I know it'll hit a good audience, what we are doing now. But when this opportunity fell in my lap, it was just too good to pass up for sure. So, and you know what? Thanks for bringing it up, George. Well, while I have you on the line before we get to the topics, I want to let everybody know about the event that you did have up there as well. It sounds like to me your family did a wonderful job, and I feel bad I couldn't get there, but unfortunately during the day at the corner ballpark, I was starting to feel a little ill and started dealing with fever-like symptoms, and I was there to cover the draft. That's why I wasn't able to get there, but I will be there in August of next year when you go ahead and do it.
Yeah, it was. It turned out to be really, really nice. I mean, we put a lot of work into it, put a lot of effort into it, and it really went beyond my expectations. My sister's fashion show was the highlight of the evening. Was out absolutely outstanding. Had 24 models, and they were wearing 24 things that she had made, and the models were great, were professional. I mean, they're just outstanding. And the reception, that she received was great. We probably had 50 or so, or 50 or more former players that were there, and also their significant others. Turned out real nice, man. A lot of media coverage, just really nice. I mean, just beyond my expectations. I mean, really kind of was buzzing from it for at least a good week after I left there. Just it feels good. The city was very warm and receptive to us. It kind of made me homesick for a minute, so I slapped myself in the face and realized it gets cold up there in the winter. But had a lot of good people there. Tommy Hearns came through. Bill Harper came through and spoke. Mimi Faust was there. I don't know if she's from Love and Hip Hop. She was actually one of my sister's models. Just a lot of great individuals, and a real fun time. Got to see a lot of people I haven't seen in a long time, and truly enjoyed my time while I was up there.
All right, let's go back to the chat room. I want to acknowledge a lot of people in there. Hello, Rocket Scientist. Glad you're on as always. And I love Dusty and Braden. What's up, guys? What's up is us. We're out here broadcasting, and we're glad you're a part of the show. George Icorn and Ken Ballrick, as usual. You're the usual kudos for you as well. So, so with that said, we do have some football to talk to about. We're going to talk. This one is an intriguing topic for me. College football players may be required to participate in bowl games as part of the NIL contract stipulations. All right, Jeremy, what are your thoughts about this?
I think it's a great idea. I am absolutely sick of people skipping the draft to hurt their draft, or skipping the bowl games because they're worried about hurting their draft stock. If they're getting NIL money, they should play in that bowl game because they're being paid to represent whatever company that is.
Right.
And so that's no different than any other sponsorship. That'd be like somebody saying, "Oh, we got the whole season wrapped up. I'm not going to play in the wild card game because I want to make sure I make it to the Super Bowl."
Okay. Well, you know what, Jeremy, you're falling into the GMTA category. We know what that is, right, Jeremy?
Great minds think alike.
That's it, buddy. If I don't lose my voice over this topic, you'll be the reason why I don't. Okay, yeah, you know what? I don't think there's any question in my mind that you've definitely got to incorporate this as soon as possible. I believe that to me, when you go to college and you have an opportunity to play in a bowl game, you do it. Now, I understand the reasons behind why they haven't because they worried about their careers down the line, but now there is money coming in a little bit. So as far as security is concerned, these kids have some cash coming in. Otherwise, other guys didn't play because they were concerned, and we've seen some injuries in bowl games that have put players on the shelf. But now it's a different animal. With that said, I'm going to swing it over to Travis Holmes. No brainer as far as I'm concerned. Go ahead, Travis.
Yeah, but I'm real curious on how this is going to work out. And I say that for the obvious reason of the whole reason for this quote unquote, wide-ranging revenue sharing program is because of the lawsuit that's currently out there where the NCAA might end up paying up to like $4 billion because they were limiting the players' ability to make money or on their image and likeness. So if that is the reason for this existing in the first place, how then are you going to be able to bring the NIL in-house and only be in-house? Because that's the kicker here, right? If you're saying the NIL is going to be an in-house option, then you're also saying that it would then be the only in-house option. Otherwise, players will still just reject this option and just go with the outside sources of income. So I'm a little curious about how that's going to work because otherwise we're back in that whole, the Olympics used to be an amateur sport kind of situation where it's the Wild West. So I don't know how that's going to work out.
Okay, Coach, you want to add some insights to this whole thing?
Well, I think I agree. I definitely see Travis's point, and I agree. I mean, I think it's a great thing if it ends up working out. The only thing, again, I wasn't aware of this until I saw it on the sheet that it was going to be one of the topics. So the only thing that I can think of is, Travis, I mean, those things they are like contracts that the player enters into, and it would have to be written into the contract that they have to, participate in the bowl game, et cetera. The hard part I have with this is that, I mean, you have the NIL agents now that are negotiating these contracts. A lot of times it's the agents that are the ones that are advising the players not to play in the bowl game. So it'll be interesting to see how it works out. I think in theory it's great. Definitely see both sides of it. But, I think it is a little selfish to skip the bowl game.
Right.
I've always felt that way personally, but it'd be interesting to see how this one works out.
Okay. All right. And let's put a couple chats up there from Dusty. All right. Michael Oher is one of the best professional football players. Okay. Put that up there. If anybody wants to chime in, fine. If not, we'll put them up there. Also, Brandon Burlsworth from the Arkansas Razorbacks, but unfortunately he's no longer with us on this earth. He would be 47A. All right. Thanks for bringing that up, Dusty. All right. We'll go ahead to Mel. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's a great idea in theory, but I don't think it's going to work. I don't think it's going to happen for a number of reasons. One, which Coach outlined as far as who's in control right now. And a kid, I think, has to want to play. I think you have to want to play. You can't force a kid to play.
Right.
Force a kid to play. A lot of things can come up. I mean, you're not going out there giving it 100%. You're really not wanting to be out there. That's when injuries happen.
Right.
So the kids have to want to play. When I was coming up, I mean, there was just no doubt. I mean, nobody even thought about it. You want to play, but the money's different now. The money's different now than it was back then. I mean, let's just be real about it. So some of these guys who are surefire first-round draft pick, you're talking about generational wealth here. You're talking about being able to take care of your kids. So
right.
The NIL money is not going to last that long. It's not going to stretch that far. So I think you're still going to have the problem. I don't like it. I don't like tuning in watching bowl games and there's 5, 6, 7 guys out there in sweatsuits that are the people who I really want to watch. And not all of them should be. Not all of them should be out there in sweatsuits. But I mean, there's a couple of them that rightfully so. If they're not playing for all the marbles, I get it. They don't want to jeopardize hurting themselves because I've watched bowl games where but they were playing in the big ones that I can remember. The guys have had career-ending or career-threatening injuries. So I think it's going to be hard to implement. I understand the reason why, because you want to have a better quality game, especially when you're talking about the amount of money that these bowl games generate for the universities. But I think it's going to be very difficult to implement it because the kid has to want to play. I mean, you can go out there and make it or whatever, and but if he doesn't want to play, don't play.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. Well, this next topic should be really interesting. And even though many of us remember Tom Dempsey, the guy with the square foot that beat the Lions in New Orleans over at Tulane Stadium. But now in Detroit, we have another guy by the name of Jake Bates, who plays for the Michigan Panthers. This guy has made, get this, 360-yard field goals this season. There's never been a kicker in the NFL history with 360-yard field goals in a single season. More importantly, he kicked 5 field goals on Saturday in the Panthers' 28-27 win over the Arlington Renegades, who are 0-6 under Bob Stoops. You talk about a guy with a foot. I remember, was it Herman Weaver, Jeremy? I think that was Thunderfoot many years ago, right? So this guy here. So I guess the main question is this, and we'll start off with Jeremy since the reference. Where do you think Jake Bates is going to land?
Well, since you put it that way, let's talk about what he's done this season for the Michigan Panthers. He's 13 of 15. The only 2 misses he has was at an outdoor windy stadium. He's made all of his 60-yarders in Ford Field. He's already been in twice to talk to the Lions because they can talk to him, but they can't offer him a contract for the UFL season
Right.
because that's the way that contract was wrote up between the different owners groups. So that being said, I think it's a good chance he ends up right here in Detroit because what do we got? We got Michael Badgley, and he's so bad that we got guys, fans of the team that call him Bag Lady. And then we just signed the UDFA out of Michigan, whose longest is 52, and that's James Turner, the kicker out of Michigan. So, yeah, why wouldn't we bring him in? Because then maybe we wouldn't have Dan the Gambler Campbell at 47 yards going, I'm not kicking a field
That's
goal.
funny. Yeah, that was funny. Yeah, Dan Campbell. For those of you that want to know about Dan the Campbell, that was funny. Don't say nothing else. Quit while you're ahead on this topic, Jeremy. That was good. All right, we'll switch it over to Coach. That was good.
Definitely deserves a shot. I think it would make sense for him to land in Detroit. We'll see what happens. They don't really have a proven guy. I mean, Bagley's a veteran kicker, but we've talked about him before. His range is limited. This kid gives him another element. So I wish him well. I wish him to continued success. Obviously, the how he finishes the season that he's in right now will be very important. And it looks like the league has found a star.
They really have, haven't they? I mean, you think about the guys kicking at Ford Field. There's only 2 misses are outdoors, and everybody's looking for good kickers. I know Jeremy. Well, did you get bent out of shape? I think when the Bears drafted a punter or a kicker at the draft, and then you felt better when they finally drafted a position player afterwards. I know Jeremy was getting a little wound up about it, but that's beside the point.
They had 4 picks in the draft, and they wasted their last 4th rounder. Granted, this guy's the best punter in there, but
Right.
according to the prospect list, he was 322nd prospect in the league, and they take him prior to pick 200. And then they had to trade up and waste next year's 4th round pick to get the defensive end that was the 87th prospect overall. If they'd have reversed it and did that the other way around, I'd have been okay with it. Because to me, taking a punter in the 4th round, you might as well take a one-armed quarterback.
The only thing I'm going to say about this thing is the way you reacted on your podcast. It was just funny watching you react the way you did. I mean, there comes a time, it doesn't happen often, that I do keep quiet, okay, and I do observe people. And this time, if you would have saw it, if I would have videoed, and I'm not smart enough to do that stuff anyways, I got somebody way smarter than I am called Candy, okay, that does this stuff. Jeremy, you would have been a great video to happen, judging by your body language and your reaction. I'm leaving it at that. Okay, with that said, let's take it over to Travis. What are your thoughts about Mr. Bates?
I mean, he's balling out of control right now. The man's in his zone. But to be fair to both him and fair to other people who we've seen this from, kickers are very sensitive, fickle. There we go. Yeah,
Right.
fickle athletes. Let's say it that way. So he's in the zone right now, and he's absolutely earning himself some opportunities and some money with this. But to Jeremy's earlier point, he's more likely than not going to end up in Detroit, at least for the right of first refusal. And then maybe he'll get a few opportunities elsewhere if it doesn't work out in Detroit. But that's more likely than not going to be the initial spot. It's kind of crazy to me that he was with Houston last year, but they allowed him out of that contract after the first game to give him an opportunity to get on with another team, and he wasn't able to grab another opportunity in the preseason, and they didn't have any kicker issues. So it's good to see this happening for him, and again, he's getting himself a little bit of a bag for sure. But it's more likely than not going to be Detroit with the right of first refusal.
Well, the one thing I noticed about United Football League, I didn't bring it on as a topic tonight because I had other ones I needed to get to because of timing. But the United Football League ratings are really pretty good all year. I believe Jeremy, the demographics are 19 to 47 or somewhere in that area, somewhere in there. So, this is a league here now that they've actually merged with the XFL and the USFL. They've done a really good job. I love the spring league, so I think we're going to see some more things. Mel, what are your thoughts about Mr. Bates?
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, number one, he's getting an opportunity. I think that's what we talked about before is guys need reps. You look at this guy's career, he didn't get any in college. He handled kickoff duties. He didn't kick field goals. He wasn't kicking field goals. Now, that also tells me something else. I mean, the guy, does he have the yips? I mean, did he have something was going on, mentally that he wasn't afforded the opportunity to kick field goals in college. And even when he got, like Travis alluded to, he got picked up by the Texans and on there. Now, one thing we know is he has a strong leg, and whatever issues he may have had, whatever psychological issues he may have had performing on the big stage or whatever the case may have been, obviously he's gotten over those. And this is what the UFL is about. Giving guys opportunities, giving them an opportunity to get some exposure and be able to go out there and make a career for himself. Because had it not been for this league, we would have never heard about it. We would have never heard about it because he wouldn't have gotten another opportunity more than likely based on what he did in college and based on, the fact that he did have a tryout with the Texans and he wasn't able to hang on there. He lasted there a month. So I don't know what happened during that month, during that period, but evidently he didn't show enough for him to hang on there and fight for that job. So
Right.
I think it's good for the kid. I think it's real good, and it's good for us. It's great for us. Gives people something to talk about, people to get excited about, and I think this could be a life-changing opportunity for him if he gets an opportunity with the NFL club and he's able to hang in there for 10, 15, 17 years. I think it'll be great.
All right, back to the chat room. Let's go to Dusty at the top with Michael Oher. Come on here sometime. If I can get him and I can find him, I'll bring him on. Usually guys like him, I find him on LinkedIn anyways, because LinkedIn's a heck of a place to get guests, because it is a professional website. And you know what? I'll give LinkedIn an endorsement right now. Without LinkedIn, it would make my job a whole lot more difficult to find quality guests. In fact, I found Mel Farr and Coach Bono on LinkedIn, so you guys are gold because of LinkedIn. And Jeremy, I just stole him from a competitor, so I don't care. I'm proud as heck of it. And Travis, I met him in person, so that worked out okay. Well, I want to mention the other competitor, who, by the way, is working at one of those dollar places instead of the home improvement place, but who cares? But nevertheless, all right. And back to hello, Ralph Williams. And we'll go to Dusty out there. If I can find somebody from Ole Miss on there and the ticket is LinkedIn, Dusty, I'd love to have him on. Yes, Ralph Williams, the St. Louis Battlehawks sell it every game. They're definitely the class of the UFL, USFL, XFL, wherever they're at. And Bo, we miss you tonight, but looking forward to having you on in a couple of weeks. And then George Eichhorn. Oh, look at that. Mel looks 15 years ago with his clean shave. Looking good, Mr. Farr. Look at all that love here. All right, with that said, I'm going to bring Candy Ebling on right now. She'll go out there and provide the promos, and we have a topic that's ideally suited for her. Go ahead, Candy.
Sorry, here I'm trying to get on stage. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to give you the particulars for our channel first. Go to our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. You can see Jeremy's writing. You can see Scott's writing. You can see George Eichhorn's writing. You can see my photographer at my work as a photographer. Go to our YouTube channel. Hit that red subscribe button. Share us, like us, share to all your friends. Also, go to all of our guests and go to their channels and help them promote themselves as well. You can find us wherever you get your podcast, Spreaker, Google, Apple, iHeartRadio, all of those places. Scott also wrote a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It talks about how media has changed over his 40 years. He's got some really good stories in there. He talks about some of his interviews, some of the people he's interviewed. You gotta go. It's Amazon, Kindle, Barnes & Noble, Apple, or Google Books. All of those places. Okay, Scott, back to you.
All right, Candy. Thank you very much. Also, let everybody know that if you are following us on Twitter at Tribune South as well. So we operate on Twitter. I mentioned LinkedIn. You can find my name, Scott Morgan, right there. If you want to connect or you want to be a guest on the show, let me know. I'll be more than happy to bring you on. In fact, anybody that's on tonight, if you're interested in coming on tomorrow night's edition of the Sports Exchange, feel free to let me know. I'll be more than happy to include you. I like to reward people in the chat room, the followers, whatever. I feel it's always good to bring a fresh face on every so often. So if you have an interest in coming on tomorrow night's edition of the Sports Exchange, don't hesitate to leave us your information. We'll get back to you as soon as possible. All right. Well, our third topic is the reason why I want to bring Candy on. Okay. Other than the fact she does an outstanding job promoting everything. Anyways, on Friday night, in week one, get this. Okay. Green Bay will meet Philadelphia. It's one of those international games in Sao Paulo, Brazil, home of the Brazilian soccer team, SC Corinthians, which frowns upon teams wearing green. So this is a two-part question for everybody to think about. What would be a good alternative colors for both teams? And then the second part of the question will be, what are your thoughts about the NFL playing on Friday night? You know what, Candy? Since the Packers are involved, we're going to let you lead off.
So here's my green, of course. I know some of you don't like my green, and that's okay. Here's my issue. So the NFL decided to put two teams into Brazil, into this stadium. Now, obviously they didn't do research because there's only 3 teams in the NFL that wear green. This stadium bans wearing green of any sort. So they've actually fined former players for wearing even just green cleats. Okay, so the 3 teams in the NFL that wear green, the Eagles, the Packers, and the Jets. So you put the Eagles and the Packers in on that. Okay, so what are you going to do? Well, the Eagles did have black uniforms, so they could go. They're supposed to be the home team. Their home uniforms are green. So obviously they can't wear those. Or maybe they do and the NFL gets fined. But the problem with that is there's so many fans that are going to be against wearing the green because they don't believe in wearing the green. So Eagles could wear black. The Packers could wear white. Yes, there's still going to be some green. Now, the problem is when the Eagles wear the black uniforms, they had already retired their black helmets, and they can't come back till 2025 is what I read. So I don't know exactly what they're going to have to do. They're going to have to figure something out. Come on, NFL. You could have either moved this game to someplace else or put 2 other teams in there. You should have done some research before you did this. And really, I'm not happy with it being on Friday night because Friday night has always been traditionally high school football night. And that's when all the families go to high school games to watch and support the high school kids. And let's face it, you got to feed. You start with the high school, move to college, move on to the NFL. Why the NFL would try and compete with that and take over is beyond me.
All right. Well, you know what? Before we turn over, we have a dog check by Josh Bedore coming later here to the party, so we'll give him his due. Guys, don't try to decipher what dog check is. I'm just giving the guy his due, mentioning it, so don't worry about it. Okay. Nobody has to overthink it. It's a dog check, and that's it. Okay. Not a cat check, but a dog check. Even though I got 2 of them around here. Jeremy knows what I'm talking about. All right, Jeremy. With that said, we'll segue over to you. You know the 2 questions. Give me the answers.
There isn't an easy answer because even in those alternate colors, they still have green in the jersey. It's a poor location decided on by the NFL. I understand that it's what they wanted, but to take one of the 4 teams, because we also forget the Seahawks are green too. So you take any one of those 4 teams and put them there, and they're going to get booed by the local fans.
Yeah.
So now we got somebody wanting a cat check.
Yeah, right. There you go. Hey, there you go. Jeremy will handle the animal business. Also, we want to welcome the New Breed 313 Sports to the broadcast as well. Thank you very much for chiming in. So that's okay. You're the only one on this panel allowed to do barks and cat stuff. Everybody else, don't worry about it. Okay, we already have an animal here that's willing to talk animal language. All right, Jeremy, I'll leave it at that. All right. All right. So anyway, Jeremy, back to so you object to Friday nights as well.
Friday nights. Yeah, we talked about this
Yeah.
one before when it was first announced that was going to be the game and that it was 8 o'clock on a Friday night. How dare they bring it on at what is the halftime of every high school on the Eastern Seaboard?
Right.
And that
Okay.
means
Well,
Mountain time they're doing it at the start time. At Pacific time, they're not even going to get done to the third quarter of that game. So that is an awful, awful thing to do to high school sports. We've already seen where late at night, the Pac 12 and some of those Mountain West teams would have a game on Friday night, but they did
right.
it really late. When I say really late, it was like an 11 p.m. start, but we have to remember that's 8 p.m. there. So they were doing the same thing to the local high schools on the West Coast.
All right. Now, let me answer Joshua Door's question. No, tonight Bo had another commitment. He was unable to be on. He'll be on in about 2 weeks. So just to answer your question. All right, back and all right. Well, you definitely have your fan there with Joshua Door and the New Breed 313 Sports. All right. You know what, Jeremy? You're probably more. What are your thoughts about how the Lions did in the draft?
Well, they definitely bolstered their weakest position on the defense by going back-to-back corners. And with the additions that you see across the league with the wide receivers everywhere, it's a great move because that was by far our weakest room on the defense. Then to go ahead and be able to do something that I said they might do on day 3 as a joke on my podcast before the draft even started. I said, we don't have a 4th-round pick. I could see them trading up twice, and they did. Now, granted, the first one I kind of agree with. Even though no one even knew who he was, Giovanni Manu, great, great kid out of University of British Columbia, a road grader, 6'7" and 5/8 inches tall, 352 pounds, and runs a 4.96 40 with a 30-inch vertical because he was a center playing basketball for that college as well.
Yeah.
That's I'd make him a tight end this season with the new hip drop rule and watch him run through everybody.
Yeah, you raved about that pick when they made the pick. All right, let's go back to the chat room. Okay. Question for Smoking Jay. How does it feel to be top dog? Well, yeah, at least you know you have a van.
But I know I am a dog, and if I get to be the top dog, I'm proud of it. But that being said, Sion Vaki, who was a safety, but if you actually look at his numbers for PFF wise in college, that we got for our second, 4th-round pick, he's actually a better running back than he is a safety, and he's even better at special teams than he is at either one. And that's something you got to remember. With the new special team rules, they got to have those guys that are willing to be physical tacklers with the way the new rules are set up to be able to stop teams from having to start on an average of the 40-yard line on kickoff. So I think it was a good pick for that particular rule set because he's a special teamer and he's running back depth, which you think after Craig Reynolds, Bam McKnight, on his first special teams play last season when we signed him, he gets hurt. So we need depth at that position for the running back and for special teams.
Okay, let's stay on. We're going to stay on point here, Coach and Mel and Travis. I know you're waiting patiently, so let's talk about the green rule, as we call it there, Green Bay, Philadelphia, and the Friday night. But we'll start with you, Coach. What are your thoughts about this game being played in Brazil without the green?
Well, I don't know how you're going to do that. I mean, I guess Green Bay could wear their throwback uniforms, which I think are navy blue and white and gold.
Right.
The Eagles have a throwback that's kind of almost a bluish color, green. They could do that, but we're talking about the color green, and the other thing that's green is money.
Yeah. That's
Brazil is not volunteering to host this game just out of the goodness of their hearts. Okay, that's going to bring an awful lot of money and recognition to to that stadium, to that city, to that country, and
right.
I think that it's a different sport. And typically, you go to these European games, these games in Europe, the NFL games, they don't draw the local fans. They're not going to draw the locals. I mean, some obviously, but what happens in Germany or when they have the games in Europe is you have people traveling from all the European countries. I only got an opportunity to do that once. We played the Falcons in London, but the thing that I'll remember about that game was you looked up in the stands, you saw all 32 jerseys.
Right.
Games attract football fans, not necessarily fans of the teams that are playing. There'll be some of that, obviously, but they're there to be, to see an NFL game, to see NFL athletes more than they are to see or root for a particular team. So I don't think it'll be an issue. I think because it's a different sport, because of the money involved, I think they'll, everybody understands the value of green.
Yeah, that's why I'm wearing it tonight, just to prove a point. Okay, so
Now, as far as it being played on a Friday, I don't like it. I'm a big fan of high school football, support it everywhere we've been. So I don't like that. I think Friday should be reserved for high school.
okay. All right, Travis.
I knew Coach would have that opinion because that man loves his high school football, as do I. But no, and he made a great point. If both teams go back to their throwback uniforms, I think that in and of itself solves the problem. And we've seen the NFL do that in previous seasons, not specifically to fix this problem, but just in general. They have their throwback uniforms as an option, so that may be a good way out of this mess that seems to be our current issue. It doesn't necessarily resolve the issues with the helmets because there still will be green in those, and I don't really know of a way or a workaround around that. But whether that's the Eagles 1930s uniform or the Packers, I don't even know how old that uniform is for the Packers. But yeah, you have options there. But also the other part would not forgot. I'm sorry, I missed who mentioned it originally, talking about the fact that there's a significant money involved here. It's not, and this isn't a law. Uh, this is something where the local fans they have some hate towards their local other Brazilian local club who happens to have green. Cool. That doesn't mean you can't wear green in the stadium. I mean, the Brazilian national team has played multiple games in the last like 7 years, going back to 2014 in this stadium. That I'm sure that green in that flag is not banned from that stadium. That's my overall point. So this is probably not something where it's a true line in the sand kind of thing. They just don't like it because they don't like this team. They don't like this. Like I don't like the Tennessee Titans colors. Cool. There are worse things in life, but again, when that money's involved, it'll get done, and we won't have anything to worry about.
As for Friday night football,
Ugh. That's a hard one. 'Cause the NFL is still king, and unfortunately, they will compete with any and everything. If they can compete with Jesus' birthday, they can compete with these kids. I don't know what to tell you.
ooh, that's strong. That's strong. All right, Mel.
He's truth, though.
No, you're right.
I don't even know why we're having this conversation. I mean, really, NFL is a multi-billion-dollar corporation. If you or I were to make this type of mistake, we'd be held accountable. When they went over there and scouted the location, I would have to think this conversation came up. There's there's 28 other teams outside of the 4 that do wear green that could go play this game. Why is it necessary that you choose? I mean, that you're trying to poke the bear here. It seems like they're just trying to poke the bear. Say, okay, well, we don't like green. We know they don't like green, but we're going to put 2 teams over there with green. We're just not going to have 1. We're going to have 2. I don't understand that. Obviously the NFL thinks they're, bigger than anybody. Maybe they figure, they can do what they want to do. We'll just have to see what happens. And again, playing on Friday, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I'm like Coach and I'm like Travis. I mean, I like college football. I mean, I like watching high school football. Occasionally, I'll go out to a game just for no reason and just sit up there in the stands and enjoy some high school football. For whatever reason, I enjoy it. Even though my nephew stopped playing a little while ago, I enjoy watching high school football, and I believe that date should be reserved for high school football. Even though we played on Saturdays, when I was a kid, we played on Saturdays because we didn't have a home stadium, so we had to play at other school stadiums, and they played on Friday, so we had to play Saturday night or Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of the alternate possibilities, and I think that New Breed Sports makes up an interesting point. Them old Packers jerseys look like jail jerseys. He gets a kick out of that. So, New Breed, that is pretty good. But as far as coordinating where I think here, I guess if the Packers had to, and I think this gets resolved way sooner, we're bringing it up tonight because I certainly want to make awareness of the whole thing. The Packers could go with their gold uniforms if they want to and just mix white and figure that out. And if the Eagles had to, and I'm just throwing hypotheticals out there, they could go with black jerseys with white if you had to, and it doesn't interfere with the green. Do I think they're alternatives? No. The best alternative? No. I think obviously the NFL went in there wide open. There'd be a green issue, and now there is. But again, who's competing with their checkbook? Nobody. Whatever the NFL gets, they do what they want. You can't. As far as Friday night, no, that's all to the high schools. I don't care. But like Mel says, they're going to do whatever they want, and that's all there is to it. So high schools, it's all about money. And why do you think the NFL is valued much higher than any of the other sports out there? Because of decisions that are bold, whether we like them or not, they're going to do what they want, and that's why they're undoubtedly the wealthiest league out there. Two more things I want to get to tonight. Enjoy great participation in the chat room tonight. Keep it going. Appreciate every one of you. All right. Well, you know what? J.J. McCarthy, is he the right fit for the Minnesota Vikings? We're going to start with Travis this time.
It's hard not to be the right fit for a team that has JJ on it. Like that's a hard one. Sorry, Justin Jefferson. How do you? I don't know if you are a quarterback, how you can't be the right fit for that guy. That's your get out of jail free card. That is your, I don't know, your Megatron for Matt Stafford. If he's not someone, like if he was someone who struggled to go through his progressions, someone who used that break glass in case of emergency, receiver every down, I could see it potentially maybe being a small issue for his long-term development. But if you're talking about someone who's shown a pretty acute ability to do just that, to go through his progressions, to have that similarity with someone like a Brock Purdy, who was able to manage an offense and truly go down the field, truly hit his reads, at the 3-step drop, 5-step drop, etc. I can't see a situation where him being in that offense would be a bad situation, and that there's just not many guys like that unless you just have someone who's just severely underdeveloped and someone who's just going to YOLO it and just kind of go to that receiver and just lean on them at all times.
Okay, Coach.
I think it'll be a good fit, but again, I mean, proof's in the pudding. I'm a little bit, I guess I'm jaded or skeptical always until I see guys play.
Right.
And again, at the quarterback position, it's so much dependent on all the things around them. I mean, so yeah, I like the player. I like the offense and the staff. I think it'll work out well. I mean, there are weapons there as Travis alluded to. So I think it'll be fun to watch, and I'm anxious to see it.
Okay, Jeremy.
Here's the thing. For as many wild throws as JJ had his entire career at Michigan, he had just as many where you say WTF. Because whether he threw it at somebody's feet or he sailed it over somebody's head, there's a reason why the last 5 games he averaged less than 105 yards passing. It wasn't just hiding him. He was struggling with his reads because he had a point where we went through like 6 games without an interception. The next thing you know, he has 2 in one, 3 in another, 4 in another one. So they stopped letting him throw the ball as much. He went from throwing it 25 to 35 times a game down to 15 or less. So with that being said, that means that there's something with this development that they saw, and you just can't let it go. And I see you, Coach.
See, Joshua, even Coach is getting into the act. This guy here, let me tell you, Coach is good for the brand, and he has a sense of humor. Joshua, if you're still out there, at least the rest of your cronies are going to see it anyways. Look at this. Now they're all getting it here. All right. Coach is in all business. He does have a sense of humor. Keep it going, Jeremy.
In essence, I hope he gets to sit a year. I hope Sam Darnold, as the coaching staff said, is going to be the starter this year, can actually make it through an entire season for a change. Because ever since he's left the Jets, he's gotten 5 games and out. And this is a Kyle Shanahan system-based team. So therefore, he might be okay here. Sam Darnold, that is, because he was with San Francisco with Kyle Shanahan.
Right.
He was on the roster for 5 games before they went to Brock Purdy. But at the same time, I think JJ ends up starting by week 6, and if he's not developed enough, you'll see it right away.
Okay, Mel?
Yeah, I haven't seen enough of the player to really be able to make an evaluation on him based on what we saw at Michigan. Now, I think Jeremy brings up a great point, but Michigan could run the ball very, very effectively. I mean, they had the best, the most dominant offensive line in all of college football. So when you can run the football the way that they can run it, you really don't need to pass. I mean, they're old school. I mean, they go back to me and Coach's days, 1980s, 1970s type of football. 3 yards in a cloud of dust, although they weren't doing 3 yards. I mean, they're picking up chunks. I don't know. I haven't seen the player enough. Hopefully, as Jeremy said, once again, they have Sam Darnold there. He sits for a year, and you commit to that. Let the guy sit. Let him learn. Let him learn how to be a professional. Let him learn the nuances of the position at that level. And, similar to what they did with Patrick Mahomes. I mean, I think he sat for the first 15, 16 weeks. They brought him in at the end of the year. The team was doing well. They brought him in, and then they moved on from the quarterback that they had at that particular time. You do the same thing with this kid here. There's no need to rush him. I mean, what are you rushing for? There's no need to rush him. Yeah, well, everybody wants to win. Everybody needs to win. That's why you got Sam Darnold. He was a high draft pick. I think number 3 overall. And I've never been high on Sam, but he's serviceable. He should be able to get you through 15, 16 games, how many ever games you want to get you in the playoff chase. Although, that division is going to be tough with Detroit there and Green Bay. It's going to be tough. So let the guy sit, man, as opposed to having him go out there and then all of a sudden he gets gunshot because he's just getting pummeled and he loses his confidence, similar to the kid that just left the Jets. And it's very difficult for a kid to recover once they've been beaten like that. Even Derek Carr, I mean, he just got beaten so badly. Became was Derek Carr or was his brother? Can't think of his brother's name, but
David Carr.
David Carr. Yeah, you get beaten like that. It's very difficult to recover. I mean, it's very, very difficult for these guys to recover.
May I address this for you, Mel? Because one of my guys came on and they asked, "Is this the former player Mel Farr?" This is Mel Farr Jr., Mel Farr superstar's son. He just did the Mel Farr, the 24 benefit the Wednesday before the draft, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. I just wanted that benefits players and other students of underprivileged children to go further with their adult life with helping them with college funds. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And also, is Mel Farr Jr. also played in the league as well. So yeah, he is a former player as well. And just so you know, is undone. Okay, subscribe to our YouTube channel, South Florida Tribune. You get to see Mel on every Tuesday night, or unless we need him somewhere else, he's always there to help us there as well. So, Mel, everybody on this group here, they're regular. We like to keep consistency and continuity as well, and that's why I'm proud of the crew that I really have. As far as my take on this, it comes down to one thing. Minnesota head coach Kevin O'Connell, I think is who it is, right? You know what? He's an offensive-minded coach. Yes, sitting a year would be ideal. I think every quarterback should sit a year, no matter what. But unfortunately, too many people have a toy they like to play with it earlier, is what they like to do. And that toy isn't ready to be played with, okay? But the reality is this. If the head coach, to me, is as good of an offensive coach as he is, then there's no reason why J.J. McCarthy shouldn't succeed. But too many quarterbacks get wrecked way too quickly, and that's why we have so many busts is what we have. So great turnout in the chat. I'm really excited as heck about everyone here and proud of all dog checks and no dog checks. Even Coach Bono got into the dog check business here. So now we won't ask Coach Bono to say dog check, but the fact that he's typing it is really big progress, Joshua. Now, I mean, if Coach Bono wants to do it, I'm not stopping him from doing it. But
What, dog check?
is that what you want to say, Coach? Say it.
Dog check.
There you go. You got it, Joshua. See what happens? Everybody gets what they want as long as we act nightly and we don't come up with any comments like limbs. Don't get him started on that. I don't want to talk about it. The only one that gets away with that one is Jeremy on Fire Up. Other than that, we leave the limbs out of this program. All right, one last topic I want to get to. One that bothered the daylights out of Ballrick, okay? Is this Michael Penix at number 8 to the Atlanta Falcons? This drove him nuts. And you're not the only one who drove it nuts because I don't think whatsoever Kirk Cousins liked it either, knowing that he left one situation like he did, right? And only to find out, okay, he's going to be keeping the seat warm for somebody else. So you know what, Jeremy? You didn't like it at the draft. Now you get to talk about it on this show.
Well, if you talk about their three biggest needs on this team, it was another weapon for Kirk Cousins because Kyle Pitts is allergic to the end zone. He's had 2 touchdowns in his career. You got Drake London, who's a good wide receiver, but who does he have opposite him? Cordarrelle Patterson isn't there anymore, so you can't throw him back at wide receiver. I can't name anybody. So that being said, they could have taken Rome Odunze right there and had him. They could have taken Brock Bowers and moved Kyle Pitts to wide receiver because he's a wide receiver in a tight end's body and just let him play split out at his big height. Or they could have taken a cornerback because they just lost Jeff Okudah because they lost their CB2 the year before. They could have done what they were supposed to do and take Quinyon Mitchell at 8. That's what they should have done and fix their defense. But no, they take a backup quarterback after they just signed one to $180 million, $160 guaranteed for a 4-year contract. And Penix is going to be 26 this year. If Kirk Cousins plays out his contract, he'll be 30 before he touches the field and on his second contract.
See, you know what? I'm not even going to comment on this topic, and you know why I'm not going to do it? Because not only do I not want to, I just got to see Ballrick's reaction at the draft, and that was all I needed. So I'm letting Jeremy do my talking tonight. Also, you know, Coach, this is a good one here. This is one of Joshua Doerr's best questions he's come up with towards you. Okay, do you like fresh or saltwater fishing? I know you can answer that one.
Saltwater.
There you go, Joshua. Good stuff. Keep bringing more. Okay, do they believe in Darnell Mooney then? All right.
Chicago
Anybody want to?
Hey.
Okay. All right. So with that said, we'll take it over to Travis Holmes. Penix.
It depends on how you want to look at it. There are some people that are in that camp that, hey, you can't go wrong drafting a quarterback or having a succession plan, especially if you rarely ever have the ability to draft a quarterback, this high. If you're perpetually mid, if you're always just good enough not to get the quarterbacks and you don't want to give up a fortune to do it, then you take one when you have that opportunity, and I can fully understand that logic. In addition, you also have the quarterback in your team, a legend at the bank. And we've talked about him in previous months. Like, hey, Kirk Cousins is the legend at the bank. He's not a legend. He is the legend at the bank and making sure he gets paid as far as, those high value quarterback contracts. The man he's changed the game in that way. Knowing that is your guy, at least for the next 2 years, and coming off of an injury, I can see the argument. It's not as much as everybody's like just destroying them in the media over it. I can at least see that. Not to mention the past few examples we have of a quarterback sitting for 2 years have gone a little well. Like, I mean, it worked out pretty solid for the old Green Bay Packers quarterback, and Jordan Love actually. And it worked out in a solid situation, even for Pat Mahomes. It wasn't 2 years, but the 1 year. But nevertheless, allowing him to develop, not a bad situation if it works out. No one's with pitchforks at your door if it works out. because you have a great situation. And if it doesn't, well, you ain't gonna be there anyways because you're gonna be fired long before that. So it is what it is.
All right. Well, you know what? I got to go back to Joshua real quickly. This is the second half of the question, Coach. Do you have a boat?
Yes.
There you go. Now you have an opportunity to answer my question. Okay. You like the Penix pick? See, Joshua, we squeeze these questions in nicely. Go ahead, Coach. What's your thought about Penix?
I mean, to Travis's point, I see both sides of it. I mean, you know, I don't know what look, a lot of times teams get in that situation where they're drafting the best available player, Now,
Right.
did they go into it anticipating he was going to be there? Did they try to move out of that position and just couldn't get value for what they thought, they needed for that high of a pick? There's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes that, we're not privy to out here. So, I mean, he's a solid player. Was it what they need? Is he going to help them next year? Well, hope not. I mean, they're all hoping that he doesn't play for at least 2 more years. But, you get into those situations and you have a philosophy and you kind of have to stick to your guns. You can't deviate just because you don't want to take, this player or that position. But, obviously they had him highly rated. They had him rated up there. He was available. And I don't think it mattered to them that they took a quarterback. Now, Kirk Cousins isn't going to be happy about it. But of all the guys that, could handle it with the media and everything, I think he's probably one of the guys that could handle it maybe better than most. So, again, you live and die by those positions, those decisions when you're in that business. So there had to be some strong conviction. Obviously there was. They've made the pick. You can't put the toothpaste back in the bottle. I wish them well with it.
Okay, well, Mel, you know what? You're going to be playing in your neck of the woods. So, one thing about Joshua Dorr, okay, and I have to aim it towards Coach Bono. We talked about a special team show at one point, but he has an idea for you. But here's a condition, though. Joshua, if we do this thing, you have to come on all the time. And if it coincides with the Panthers game, you have an obligation to come on the South Florida Tribune Anglers show, not watch the Florida Panthers, okay? So, I mean, we know that'll never happen anyways. But, all right, off to you, Mel. What are your thoughts about Penix Jr. coming to A-Town?
I know Kirk Cousins has to be like saying like deja vu. I mean, he kind of went through this thing in Washington with Robert Griffin III.
Right.
And for a guy like me, for us Lions fans, we're like, man, this looks like this Lions would do. But you also have to realize that, again, something the Lions would do. They just gave a quarterback who's coming off a serious injury $160 million for a year. And he has a serious injury that I haven't seen him jog around. I don't know if anybody else has seen him jog around. He's hurt. He's a little long in the tooth now. We all knew he wasn't going to see the end of this contract. Really, it's probably, I haven't looked at the exact structure of it and how much money is guaranteed, but it's probably a 2-year deal, no longer than 3. They might be able to get out of it, get from underneath it after 2 years because he didn't get all the guaranteed money like he's been accustomed to getting. So, in a salary cap era and a team, when you made that kind of investment in Kirk Cousins, you're saying that we're right there. We're ready to compete. We're ready to take this to the next level. And I think as a player, I would have wanted them to use that draft capital somewhere else. I'm not ownership. I'm not going to be around forever. I need to get this done now while my iron is hot. I don't know if I'm going to be here next year, and certainly have no idea whether I'm going to be here in 2 years from now. I'm not, I can't look at this long term. The owner and the GM have the ability to look at this long term. I don't have that. If I'm a player, I don't have that. I don't have that ability. I got to get it right now. And if I'm a player in the locker room who's been there for a little while, I'd be upset because I'd be like, man, we need an impact guy at this position or a guy at this position. We don't need somebody sitting on the bench for 2 years so that you guys can have a smooth transition to the next quarterback. Now, granted, I think that Michael Penix is – I like Michael Penix. I really think he's the best quarterback in the draft. I like the way he throws the ball. I like the fact – I like what he's had to endure, the adversity that he's faced. and he's overcome it all and became an outstanding quarterback at the college level. I really like his ball. I think he's the best quarterback. But again, that's you got to take emotions out of it. So from a looking at it at a GM standpoint, ownership standpoint, that's one thing. Looking at it as a player, that's another. That's a whole different viewpoint. So like Coach said, God bless him, and I hope it works out for the player. I hope it works out for the player.
Can I ask you something? Can I ask you something, if you don't mind, Mel? How
Sure.
would you look at it from a Raheem Morris point of view, though? He's new coach.
Same thing. I got to win now. I need some help now. He came out and said all the right stuff, talking about he felt like, who did he say he felt like? With Britney Spears or somebody? I don't know. He said, no, Taylor Swift.
Yeah, he's like dating Taylor Swift and switching to Shakira type thing. Right. Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, he came out. He came out with with the company line. But yeah, if I'm him, I'm standing on the desk. I need help right now. Look, there's quarterbacks that come out next year and the year after next. There's going to be somebody that's gonna light it up, and we can get a quarterback next year or the year after next. We can get somebody serviceable to back up this guy. Let's get somebody that's going to have an impact to our team. Let's get somebody else who can rush the passer, or let's get an offensive lineman, or let's get another skill player. Let's get a DB. Let's get something, somebody that's going to have an impact on this season.
Okay, you know what? I want to go ahead and mention something in the chat room that I think I'm probably a little bit more equipped to answer than most of you guys because of my preparation for it. And this is a good point, New Breed, 313 Sports. I didn't understand the Raiders getting Brock Bowers at first when they already have Michael Mayer. Here's the reason why. During the mock draft, okay, Daniel Jeremiah had been picking all along that the Raiders would get Michael Penix Jr., and they knew that. But Atlanta felt the need to do it. I don't think that they would have drafted Bowers had Penix been available at 13. That had been predicted all along. So let's face the reality, somebody was going to get Michael Penix, but, the Raiders ended up getting a tight end that can not only block and catch the football, hoping that what they have at that position is strong. But you know what, New Breed? I don't think it was their intention to draft Bowers. They took the best available players that they could. But Michael Penix was in many mock drafts, was projected to go ahead and be picked by the Raiders. So I don't hope that that's a little bit of clarity for you, New Breed. But
Michael Mayer is a different type of player. I mean, they're two different types of players. And Michael Mayer is more of a big guy. Brock Bowers can get down a little more shifty. I mean, he's more of your Travis Kelce. He's the guy up there at San Francisco.
Right.
He's in that mold. Michael Mayer, he's a big guy. He's more of your inline type of guy.
Right.
He can catch some passes, but he's not as fast as Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers is a beast. I mean, he came in as a freshman, killing him.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. But I want to just reiterate, Mel, about what I went into going in prior to because of the mock drafts and all the Zoom calls I participated in. That wasn't the intention of the Raiders to draft them because I thought that Penix would be available. But when they obviously went with them, that was a viable alternative when they were definitely looking for a quarterback. So it'll be interesting to see how the quarterback position plays out. As far as Kirk Cousins is concerned, the only thing I want to mention about the whole thing is this. This man has made a lot of money at every stop he's had, and he's had a good agent and a lot of guaranteed money. So you know what? The fact that he got a contract from Atlanta, boy, I'll tell you, bring his agent on the show, and I'll put him on here. Our ratings will go off the roof with this guy, although I am going to work on maybe bringing on an agent at some point down the road as I work my LinkedIn contacts and hooked up with another one. But Jeremy, you have something you want to add to that?
Well, let's look at it this way with the new hip drop rule. Tight ends are going to be able to break so many more tackles this year. And it makes perfect sense to take a guy who is the next generational tight end predicted in this draft. He's the only one that was predicted to be a next generational talent out of the entire draft in the first round. The quarterbacks was said to be very top heavy, but none of them were said to be next generational talents. There is a big difference in that statement.
True, but here's the thing, Jeremy, okay? When one of them is gone, then obviously you're left with what's there, and that's why Brock Bowers fell into the Raiders' lap. And the one intangible that I don't want anybody to forget here is they've got a new regime in with the Raiders. Tom Telesco comes over from the Chargers, and I think that the Raiders have a really good, and Antonio Pierce will do a nice job with the Raiders. So it's a much different animal in terms of the draft setup than it ever has before. Great questions all over. I mean, these football questions are great. And Coach Bono, I'm enjoying watching you interact with the chatters here. This is what it's all about, my friend. You got a bunch of fans out here that look forward to you every Tuesday night, just so you know that. So with that said, Jeremy, is there anything else you want to add really quickly?
Well, yes, as a matter of fact, if you remember, Brock Bowers was rumored to have been coming out last year, and he was said he was going to be the best tight end coming out last year. If he'd have came out, Michael Mayer would have been the second best at that point.
But he couldn't. He was only 2 years removed. He couldn't come out.
Right. No, I thought he had a redshirt year and then played.
No, he came in playing right as a freshman.
No, somebody said that he was rumored to have been coming out last year, is what I was saying.
Well, regardless, it doesn't matter. The bottom line is, I don't think that the quarterback was there for the Raiders, and I think they made a heck of a pick in this guy. I really do. And anytime you can find hidden gems in the middle of that first round, I don't think you find any hidden gems in the middle of the first round. You just hope you don't find busts, which is how the draft process works anyway. So, there's a lot of great points to be made all the way around, a good case for everybody. I really think that there is. So great. Once again, great participation in the chat room. I'm encouraged by all the comments we have. Our shows can last as long as they need to, as long as we get these type of football questions and the interaction. With that said, as we wrap up the show, okay, we're going to let Mel Farr lead off and let everybody know how they can get a hold of you.
You can catch me on all the social media at Mel Farr Jr., Facebook, Twitter, or X, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And then you can follow what we have going on as far as what we got going on in Detroit at melfarsuperstarfoundation.org. Very
good. All right, Jeremy, go ahead.
Well, you can find me right here on the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. You can find me also on the South Florida Tribune website, where you can find my writings about the Lions underneath the Motor City Tribune heading. You can also find me on my channel, which is Kneecap Biting with the Motor City Lions, which I just got the offer today. I will be taking on a second morning show, or early afternoon, from 12 to 1 on Roku starting next month. So as soon as I have the details on the channel, I will release the channel name on Roku.
Okay, it's undone. Just so you know, if you want to follow us on Twitter, at Tribune South gets it done. So at Tribune South gets it done. All right, you know what? I'll get to the question with New Breed Sports first. So with that said, Travis, what are your thoughts? Well, let everybody know how they get a hold of you. I'm sorry.
You can find all of my writings covering the Jacksonville Jaguars at bigcatcountry.com. That's SB Nation Jacksonville Jaguar site. You can find me on Twitter. Here you go. X, whatever you want to call it. Travis D. Holmes. You can also find me on Facebook, all the socials, same name, Travis D. Holmes. You can find me here every week, wherever you get your podcasts, and 8 p.m. or on the Sports Exchange or Pundits, all of the South Florida Tribune offerings. And also you can find me on Fridays at 11:30 a.m. If anyone is interested in Jacksonville Jaguars podcast, we have the Duval Dive Jaguars podcast with my co-host, Kyle Nash, student of the game, as always. Wonderful show, sir.
All right, it's undone. Let me just make a couple of points here. Once you follow us on Twitter, if you ever want to become a guest on the show, feel free to reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to go ahead and do that as well. All right, with that said, let's go to Coach Bono.
Mine's short and sweet. You can find me here on most Tuesday nights, or you can find me on LinkedIn. That's it. I am social media by choice.
Well, there you go. He's smarter than all of us. And so I do want to make an announcement tonight, though, that I think is really important. Number one, as everybody knows, that the Motor City Mad Mouse Show is an existing show right now on the South Florida Tribune Broadcasting Network. You will be going to nofilter.net in a couple of weeks. I want to make an announcement that my first two new guests on that show are going to be Mel Farr Jr. and Coach John Bonamago. They will be the first two on that platform. And, Coach Bono has a great story about his cancer surviving. And Mel, what can I say? You know what? He's been with me going back to the Peter Ween days. So I want to make sure I reward these two. Everybody at some point will get on there anyways, but I do feel a responsibility between Coach and Mel that I want their stories to be heard. And this will probably launch in about a couple weeks or so. So I'm working on it as well. So you know what is undone? I'm not. What we'll be able to do to get that particular show is it will ultimately end up on our YouTube site, but it goes live on their site, and then we get everything back. So by following us and subscribing to us, you'll be able to get that. So Coach Bono and Mel, I've been giving it a lot of thought about who I want my first two guests to be on the show, and you guys are do the first, and we'll talk about it a little bit after the broadcast is over with. All right, Candy, why don't you hop in here, let everybody know about our site. Great. This show is just unbelievable. I love doing this show, and to me, I have what I consider a Hall of Fame cast on this show, and Bo Crouch is a big contributor to it as well. So, Candy, go ahead and take it away.
You can check us out on www.southfloridatribune.com. You can check the writings of Scott, George, Jeremy, my photography. You can check out notes from the Lions, the Jags, the Dolphins, a lot of the local sports, local colleges down here like USF, Florida Gators, FAU, Miami Hurricanes, all send us content on the website. So go to the website, check it out. Hit that red subscribe button. Share us, like us. If you already subscribed to us, that's great. Now share us with everybody else so that all your friends can listen to us and watch the program as well. You can always get all of our broadcasts are available wherever you get your podcasts. iHeartRadio, Google, Apple, Spotify, CastBox, all of those places. If you want to advertise or sponsor one of our shows, call Scott 954-304-4941. If I don't talk as fast as Scott, it does. But if I talk too fast for you, it's all scrolling on the bottom. You can go back and watch and see any of what I was talking about. One more thing, Scott wrote a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is available on Amazon, Kindle, Barnes & Noble, Google Books, and Apple Books.
We got jokes here.
Yeah, we do have some jokes in the chat room. I'm going to bring one of them up, too. All right, I love Melfar. Now, this is a private chat, but I'm going to bring this up because it's interesting. He says, have your people talk to my people. Mike Lodich is my agent. You know what? I got news for you. Mike Lodich is missing a great opportunity to be on with me. So, I think he should come to me and not sell himself short, because when I saw Mike Lodich, I got confused with Mike Lodich's initials, and I thought he was Mickey Lolich, a former guy for the Detroit Tigers. So, the ML just doesn't work. So, Mike, it's amazing tonight, folks. I have an eye doctor's appointment tomorrow, and now Mel hits me with this Mike Lodich business. Mickey Lolich, not Mike Lodich. Now, if Mike wants to come out to me, they can reach me any way they want. Mel knows the way to do it. So every now and then, folks, we like to bring up some private chat, especially if they're comical. And just to show you how far Mel Farr has come with me under our system, this guy didn't have a sense of humor very much at the beginning with Peter Ween and I, and he's really developed one that's unbelievable. I mean, so this guy has come a long way. Coach, look at Coach Bono, man. This guy, every one of you guys are a product of what we've done in this system. That's why these shows draw the numbers the way they do, because the supporting cast I have around me is improving by the second. So look at all that business. Oh, I'll tell you, I love getting that. From Mike Lodich, all right, you send him my number, and we'll see if he's interested, especially when I get on his new platform, which is going to be, as Jimmy Walker would say, dynamite, or something like that. So, all right, I'm glad we got a little bit of laughter here. So with that said, this concludes this edition of Inside the Pigskin. Next week, Candy and I will be in Detroit, but we'll be back 2 weeks from now at the same time, same location. I'll be up in Detroit promoting Lessons from the Microphone up there. Yes, Rocket Scientist, you know it by now, brother. And we are, once again, working on a merchandising deal that should be going through any time, so stay tuned as well. Coach Bono coordinated the whole thing, and now we're in the process of trying to button this thing up. So for all you merchandise people, good stuff, man. Going to enjoy the attire, whatever we got out there in the store. And we thank Coach Bono for getting it going. So with that said, this concludes this edition of Inside the Pigskin. And once again, a final shout out to my brother Lonnie Morganroth and Brandon Morganroth and the folks over at Black Rock Bar and Grill for hosting us 2 weeks ago. I want to thank them once again as we conclude the show. So on behalf of Candy, Coach Bono, Smoking Jeremy B., Melfar Jr., and Travis Sherlock Holmes, this is Scott Morganroth, the Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Inside the Pigskin. We'll catch you 2 weeks from now, same time, same station. Good night, everybody, and thanks a lot for an awesome chat room. You guys are great. Thank you. Good night, everybody.